Thank you very much for staying. My name is Emmanuel Apuaji Riafe. Now to our very first story. The ownership of Barclays Bank Ghana will not be affected despite Barclays UK's exit from Africa. That's the assurance coming from Barclays Africa boss Maria Ramos. George Riafe has more on the planned exit after engaging group officials in South Africa.
The engagement with Barclays Bank was to help journalists in the region appreciate the status of the sell-down of Barclays Bank UK and its impact on the operations in other 9 countries in Africa. Responding to a question posed by Joy Business, Chief Executive of Barclays Africa, Maria Ramos, noted that the London-based decision to move out of Africa will only affect the shareholding structure of Barclays Bank Africa as a listed entity. However, current structures in place will make it difficult for the operations of Barclays Bank Ghana to be affected badly.
We're not selling anything in any country. We bought that in 2013, and maybe actually at the time we should have made a bigger deal of the fact that we'd bought out Barclays in 2013. We didn't. Actually, the ownership of the businesses across the continent changed, right? All that's changing now is actually the shareholding of the listed entity on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. So Barclays Africa Group Limited listed on the stock exchange in Johannesburg.
Barclays Bank Africa boss Maria Ramos, however, shows the move would rather present more opportunities for Barclays Bank Ghana. This is because the Africa Group will now focus on issues that actually affects the region in its quest to be a Pan-African bank.
What will not change is our passion for being a Pan-African bank. And I hope that wherever you are, so whether it's in Kenya or whether it's in Ghana or in Botswana or Uganda, what you will have seen us do over the last 3 years since we've been the owners of these franchises, you'll have seen us invest more. You'll have seen us upgrading our branch network. You'll have seen us upgrading our systems. You'll have seen us upgrading our ATM network. You'll have seen more stability in our systems.
Barclays is currently waiting for approvals from regulators in 10 countries it operates to reduce its shareholding in Barclays Africa to about 20% from the current 50%. Barclays UK in March 2016 announced the decision to exit from Africa due to regulatory issues.
Now, the World Bank is asking government to do more to reduce the public debt because of its impact on the national budget. According to the bank, the rising interest payments on these debts is affecting funds set aside for projects under the budget. These came to light during a program by the World Bank to review government's expenditure and debt management strategies. Economist with Institute of Fiscal Studies, Dr. Saeed Boache, has been explaining to Joy Business how come the public debt in relation to the GDP has reduced significantly to 62% as of March this year.
If you go to the Bank of Ghana website, I'm told that additional 10 billion is about to be raised. So borrowing, and of course you cannot end borrowing. The way the country finances are now, if the government doesn't borrow, it will find it very difficult to run the country.
So are we,
except that the government is saying it's going to be creative in generating certain revenues that hitherto the country was finding difficult to generate. If it can do so, then it can minimize. But if revenue generation is going to continue as normal, given the position of expenditure and others, the country cannot stop borrowing now.
Do you think that we should focus more on the end of year rather than what has been put out right now?
Oh, you're talking about the debt to GDP ratio published by the Bank of Ghana. You see, for that one, it is a technical issue. Because debt to GDP ratio is you take your total debt, total public debt, divided by GDP. If you were doing this at the end of 2016, you are going to use 2016 GDP and the debt. Now, you are doing that around April 2017. So you are your numerator now is debt accumulated until April 2017. But the GDP is the forecasted GDP for the entire year. So automatically, whenever you compute your debt to GDP ratio in the middle of the year, it's going to go down relative to the previous year. But what is most important is that when the year ends and the GDP is realized, and the debt that you have accumulated for the entire year is also utilized, then you can know the debt to GDP ratio, which you can compare with the debt to GDP ratio you had in the previous end of year.
So we shouldn't be too much excited with the middle of year figure that we have right now.
No, I don't think so.
Do you think that enough is being done? Because for the ordinary person on the street, he would want to look at the nominal numbers and whether government is indeed committed. Government is saying that give me a little bit time, I am working, these policies would yield the desired results. Are you convinced as an economist, you look at the numbers and you deal with evidence by some of these assurances?
You see, when you say enough has been done, it's very difficult to answer that question now. The government is new, the budget has been put into place, and they are implementing it. In fact, even mid-year numbers haven't come yet. So let the government implement the budget. At least the mid-year, somewhere in July, you get the mid-year budget. When you get them, you'll be able to assess. The government can achieve and, much fiscal consolidation with respect to revenue.
Economist Dr. Said Boachi speaking with George Riafi. Away from that, the Ministry of Trade and Industry has begun a strategic initiative to reduce the cost of doing business in the country. This is to ensure Ghana's business environment remains friendly for both local and international investors. The initiative is geared towards the reduction of Ghana's ranking from 110th to the 46th position globally and number 1 in Africa on the World Bank Ease of Doing Business report. Speaking during an engagement with the private sector on the Rapid Reform Action Plan, Minister of Trade and Industry Alan Chemating reiterated government's commitment to improving this goal in making Ghana an attractive business country.
Regrettably, we now find ourselves somewhere down the line in this doing business ranking. And currently, we are placed 108th on the World Bank Doing Business ranking. Some 59 or 60 steps away from the top performing African country, which is ranked number 46, which is Mauritius. Now, when we talk about developing a new industrial transformation agenda, we want to be able to move along these rankings of the World Bank and also of the World Economic Forum. So our target as a country is to become number 1 in Africa. And that requires that we should be able to move from 108 in the index to come ahead of Mauritius as the leading reform country in Africa at number 46. Obviously, to move from 108 to 46 is not a mean task. And that is why government, working along with our development partners and also with the private sector, is embarking on a very comprehensive business regulatory strategy, which will take 3 years to deliver. And so part of the exercise that we're embarking on this morning is to launch this business regulatory reform strategy, which hopefully will not just make us number 1 in Africa, but will put us in the big league among the countries of the world.
On his part, President of the Association of Ghana Industries, AGI, James Asare-J, pledged support of the business community to the initiative, saying it will not only enhance the flow of business, but also reduce corruption in the system.
Indeed, happy to join you for this program of engagement with the private sector on implementation of the rapid reform plan to improve the business environment. Let me indicate that the importance of improving the business regulatory environment cannot be overemphasized. And for that matter, AGI finds it very appropriate and timely and supports fully these efforts. In order for us as industrialists to really come out and unleash our full potential and make a significant contribution to national development, we need a very robust business regulatory environment that supports growth. Now, this requires that government and all stakeholders who have a role to play in ensuring that we improve the ease of doing business take this responsibility with the seriousness it deserves. Of course, it is very pertinent that as a country, we do everything possible to improve all processes that have an impact on doing business with a view to expediting procedures and cutting down on time and cost. Honorable Minister, let me mention that now, good regulatory environment can actually help to reduce costs of doing business, as we are aware.
Away from that, the Finance Ministry's plan to issue a 10-year bond to clear the energy sector debts is taking shape. The ministry, in a public notice, is inviting bids from institutions that can manage the process of raising the funds. Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta last month disclosed to Joy Business the government is working on the modalities to aid the issuance of the bond. He adds they are planning to use proceeds from the energy sector debt levy to back the bond. Meanwhile, the Chamber of Bulk Oil Distributors has welcomed government's attempt to quickly clear the debts. Senyor Hossi is Chief Executive Officer of the Chamber of Bulk Oil Distributors.
The Finance Minister has been very progressive on this matter. He takes it serious, and I must commend him for that. The implications on our industry, the implications on the banking sector is quite dire, so it can't be taken for granted. So you've seen that seriousness being attached to it. We've had a couple of meetings, both at the SPV level. As you're aware, we have an SPV, which I happen to be the managing director for with the banks, jointly owned by the banks and the BDCs as well. And the sessions have been progressive. We are hoping to have the commissioning of on audit into all the claims that are yet to be validated. And the ones that are validated, we'll start looking at payments. And I think the minister has indicated is going to be part of the energy bond. I think the 2.5 billion they are considering.
Well, even 3.5 billion.
I mean, yes, that's possible. But it's going to be CD bond. So my advice to government and when they speak about CD denominated bonds is that they actually keep it with CD values. There's no 2.5 billion or 3.5 billion dollar bonds, because they are not going to be dollar bonds. They're going to be CD bonds to cover our part of the debt, cover some part, and it's a fantastic idea. It helps warehouse the problem, cure the problem, and get the banking industry and the active energy sectors back into active operation or proper operation.
Let's now shift our attention to some international aviation news. And British Airways says it is working to restore its computer systems after a power failure caused major disruption for thousands of passengers worldwide. An IT power cut is said to have resulted in mass flight cancellations at Heathrow and Gatwick airports in the UK. CEO of BA, Alex Cruz, took to social media to address affected passengers and the traveling public.
Hello everyone, Alex Cruz again here, British Airways Chief Exec. Many of our IT systems are back up today, and my colleagues across the airline are working very hard to build back our flight program and get as many of our customers as possible away on their travels. At Gatwick, we're running a near full operation, though some flights may be subject to delays. At Heathrow, we plan to fly all of our long-haul services, but the knock-on effects of yesterday's disruption will lead to delays. That is also true for our short-haul operation, and there are some short-haul cancellations. I know this has been a horrible time for customers. Some of you have missed holidays. Some of you have been stranded on aircraft, and some of you have been separated from your bags. Many of you have been stuck in long queues whilst you've waited for information. On behalf of everyone at British Airways, I want to apologize for the fact that you've had to go through these very trying experiences, and to thank you for your patience and for your understanding.
And in an interview with Joy Business, Russell Patmore of the BBC tells us the situation can be described as a calamity to the international airline, which has led to a great loss of revenue, but said alternative travel arrangements are being pursued to relieve stranded passengers. He spoke earlier on the marketplace.
It's been a real challenge for the airline. Now, things are getting back to normal today, but across the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, British Airways has been forced to cancel something like 800 flights to destinations right across the world. Thousands and thousands of passengers found themselves in a bit of a predicament. Some were being advised to contact the airline to find out if they needed to come to the airport. Some were advised to look at the website, and they were getting differing information. The website would say, come to the airport. They'd arrive at the airport to be told by staff that they should not have come. And it's been a bit of a challenge for British Airways because there have been allegations that the airline just might have been not investing as much as it should have done in its information technology systems, and the IT system went down. This was the problem. A computer error has caused this problem for British Airways. The trade unions have actually accused the airline of outsourcing its computer facilities to companies in India and cutting back on what they would regard as the more professional, more experienced staff working in the UK. So this is going to be a very expensive problem for British Airways. It's going to have to pay a lot of compensation to its customers.
That was BBC's Russell Patmore. You're still live on Business Live. We're taking a quick break here. We'll be right back.
Business Live today.
Thank you very much for staying. Welcome back. And it's a Monday, and of course, the market opened today. But Betta has joined me here, and I would first want to know from her how the market closed last week and also began today. Betta, good evening. So let's have a recap of how the markets looked like last week before it ended on Friday.
Okay, last week we saw the major indices appreciating marginally on their week opening levels. The composite index went up by 0.45%, and the financial stock index went up by 0.37%, and we saw them close at 13.88% and 16.66% respectively.
Okay.
However, the volumes and values traded last week depreciated or went down by 86.11% and then 96.41%, and that was quite significant as compared to the total volumes of shares that we saw trading in the past week. And despite this drop in the volumes of shares that traded, we saw 5 equities gaining as compared to 2 losers on the exchange. And we also saw some activity take place on the alternative market. We had intravenous infusions going up by a peso. Finally, after the IPO, it appreciated by a peso to close at 9 pesos, and it's since been 9 pesos. But last week we saw intravenous infusions limited go up by 1 peso to close at 10 pesos per share. It actually traded.
How has Horse been doing?
Horse is still returning the most. That's for 2016, 25% to investors, and it has returned 100% to investors from IPO, so it's still trading at 10 pesos per share. But we've been seeing some trades going on once in a while in Horse and intravenous. They're the 2 most liquid and marketable equities on the GATS currently as we speak. Last week, intravenous traded 20,000 shares at 1,800 Ghana cedis. Now, talk about today. The market closed with 3 gainers and then 1 loser. Unilever, FML, and then BOPP appreciated by a peso each on their previous share prices. That's the week close prices. BOPP closed at 3 cedis 56 pesos. We had Unilever closing at 9 cedis 1 peso. FML 11 cedis 53 pesos. HFC was the sole loser on the market. It went down by a peso to close at 49 pesos per share from 50 pesos per share. And then going forward, we're expecting equities that we're expecting them to actually add up to investors' capital this week. That is equities that could make gains this week on the exchange. We're looking at GCB, ETI, Societe Generale, EcoBank, EGH, and then Standard Chartered Bank. If you look at
financial equities.
Yes, all financial equities, they are buy equities. And this, we're actually expecting the financial sector to drive the stock market. Okay. If you look at these equities, this year, EcoBank has returned 13.28% to investors, and we have 22.58% to Societe Generale, ETI 20%, and then Standard Chartered Bank 31.36%, with GCB 47.19%. So the equity market is doing very, very well. Investors should look out for that.
Of course,
thank you.
Investors must look out for those equities. Thank you for that update. Bertha Atobika, research analyst, bringing us up to speed with development on the capital markets. Now, government is insisting measures being implemented to reduce the public debt will start yielding the desired results from June. The assurance follows the increase in the public debt by 5 billion cedis from December 1 to 127 billion cedis in March. But Deputy Minister of Finance Kweku Kwatin tells Joy Business these measures take time before yielding the desired results. That's on Interview of the Day.
Interview of the Day.
We capped earmark funds, and it is one of the major interventions in the 2017 budget designed to make it easier for government to manage its expenditures and to have less need to borrow. Those are the things, but additionally, we are also scaling up our use and strengthening of the public finance management regime to deal with waste in revenue mobilization, but also wastage in expenditures. We're looking closely at exemptions. We are looking at reprofiling our existing debt. And all that is designed to reduce government expenditure and to lessen the need to borrow.
But some will say that despite all these measures, I look at the latest Bank of Ghana report on the public debt, and let's even just stick with the nominal numbers. It is going up 121.22 to 127 billion. There have been several reasons that have been given, serious depreciation, but for that ordinary person, that is still not convincing enough. That shows that this administration is committed to at least managing the space to ensure that things doesn't get worse.
I mean, for an administration that has been in office for 5 months, this is a very respectfully uncharitable commentary. I think these interventions will take time to yield fruits. Don't forget that a new government will inherit many liabilities, and you have people coming to you with all kinds of claims of delivering things to.
Interview of the Day.
And that'll be it for this evening's edition of Business Live. Thank you so much for watching. And of course, do join me again same time tomorrow. My name is Emmanuel Abuaji. Good evening.